I think having a strong point of view and writing stories about heavy topics doesn't always mean that it has to be dark. And so I'd say hope is also a big inspiration. And it's really part of the DNA of this story and all of the work that I do. So I've been writing for as long as I can remember, really. One of my earliest creative memories was making a comic when I was 7 years old. It was called Super Seven and JP. It was about me. I was Super Seven, and my brother JP. But to talk about the my latest book, which is called This Land Is Our Land, a Blue Beetle story. It was written by me, illustrated by my good friend Jacoby Salcedo. And This Land Is Our Land is a superhero origin story. It's also a YA coming of age narrative, but it's also much more. It's a sci-fi adventure, a celebration of Latino culture, and really a story of hope, but it's also extremely grounded in the real world. This book exists in a context of heightened and politicized immigration crisis, where armed troops are deployed to the border of El Paso. Asylum seekers are being denied entry into the US, and the border's been just completely shut down. And in the midst of all of that, our protagonist, Jaime Reyes, who becomes Blue Beetle, discovers this alien bug that imbues him with these amazing powers that he isn't quite sure what to do with yet. So I'm really lucky that doing research for this book meant reading a lot of comics, which I love to do. It's what I grew up doing, and what brought me to writing comics in the first place. And I'm also lucky that Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle, is one of my favorite DC characters. So really, that just meant going back into the vault, so to say. All of his prior comics runs, I reread all of them to use them as inspiration. So that's for one half of the book, but the other half of the book, which is what we talked about earlier, which is about the hate group and the spreading of anti-immigrant sentiments in El Paso. For that, I used books like Bring the War Home, Culture Warlords, and We Go Where They Go for research. So, as you might have guessed by now, my writing is very much inspired by the real world. I have a very strong point of view that comes through in everything that I create. And sometimes that inspiration comes from me and my family's experiences, but other times from the news or historical events. But I think having a strong point of view and writing stories about heavy topics doesn't always mean that it has to be dark. And so I'd say hope is also a big inspiration. And it's really part of the DNA of this story and all of the work that I do. Well, when I'm not writing, which is a lot of the time, or reading, one of my big hobbies is running a lot. I run a lot, maybe too much, but I enjoy it. It helps me clear my head. It also helps me come up with story ideas and work through issues that I might be having in the writing. It's just a lot of good time to myself to just work through it all. And the other thing is movies. I love going to the movies. I love watching films at home, whether it's like new movies that are coming out or restorations of old films. I'm really lucky to live in New York, where there's no shortage of amazing movie theaters. So I think one other thing I could share is just, like I said, I'm the writer of the graphic novel, but the co-creator of this book is Jacoby Salcedo. He is an incredible artist who I've worked with on a lot of projects. Most recently, our Eisner Award nominated book, Frontera. And he's become one of my best friends. We talk every day. We're always working on a project together. And I'm just so proud that we got to do this book with DC for DC together.